G'day everyone, I'm Smokescreen and welcome back to another video. And here we go with another little bit of gameplay, another menu book number 34, the AMG collection in Gran Turismo 7. So we're going to be taking you through the little journey I had, getting all of these cars to complete this menu book objective. So once again, any feedback on this would be appreciated because it's not really content that's conducive to videos all the time. It's not really that competitive and it's just sort of more so showing off the gameplay and stunning visuals of Gran Turismo 7. So for this particular menu book here, we have 3 races, one at Catalunya, one at St. Croix, and one at Nürburgring, or St. Croix if we're going to be all proper. But the car I'm going to choose is the BMW Z8. You have to choose a German car and the regulations state that 700 performance points or less. So let's get this Z8 up to scratch. Let's do some brake upgrades and make sure we purchase the Sport Soft tyres. This car was 550 performance points, so I had quite a bit of work to do. So I'm going to try and get this pretty much as close as possible without spending too many credits. We're going to do a lot of engine upgrades, a lot of weight reduction, put the racing crankshaft in, and I think we're going to do a swath, there's the word of the day, swath of engine upgrades such as a high lift camshaft. We're going to increase the bore as well and add high compression pistons. I think we do one massive upgrade, 25 grand on the engine balance tuning, but that puts the car up into 660 performance points, which is not too bad. We're going to find some nice wheels to put on. I thought these ones looked good, so we're going to add some 18-inch wheels with the wide rim width. There you go, say that 10 times fast, just with the standard offset. Let's add a rear wing on the back too. Let's keep it sort of medium. That looks sort of proportional to the size of the car. And that's going to be 2.5 grand with a set of end plates as well. Let's add the carbon front lip spoiler as well and side skirts. No rear diffuser available on the car. Now, for the colour choice, let's make this and dress this up to look like a race car. I actually wanted to keep it pretty low-key, so I'm going to make it beige, which would almost be a colour that BMW would offer on one of these sort of luxury sports roadsters, which is probably what this car would be classified as. We're going to add the racing number, banner, and the racing name on the car as well, and make it look like it would be entered into a championship. Well, I guess it's technically a championship because it's called the Schwarzwald League. But the first race here at Barcelona, we're going to jump in and then we're just going to have a quick tinker with the settings of the car, get this car ready for race. To make the car turn, we're going to lower the front ride height, raise the rear ride height, but not too extreme because I think this car's already pretty oversteery. We'll whack on a ton of downforce, 160 clicks on the back, and I think we're going to experiment a little here. I don't quite feel that was just enough downforce. I really wanted to make sure the car was going to stick through the long corners at Catalunya, so I added some extra downforce as well and changed the brake balance to +2. Thankfully, with the help of the brake balance controller that I added. But that's going to just about do it for all the tuning. We're going to jump straight into the race here. So I think my car was ultimately at about 670 performance points, so about 30 performance points shy of what the regulations were suggesting. The suggestion was 700, but as you can see, we're pretty OP in a straight line as we make up 2 positions on the run into turn 1 up against, I forgot what the first car was, but that second one was a Mercedes-AMG C63. But you can see as we're coming through turn 3, look at the car just wanting to step out on half throttle, and as we finally, I was going to say, as we finally get to the exit, the car finally sticks, but then it had another massive kick of oversteers. We go right around the outside of this Porsche 911 GT1, so that's the street-going version of the GT1 race car, I'm assuming. And let's see if we can get a switch back on this 911 GT3 RS down the inside, and that's an absolutely beautiful move as we meet the apex and we're revealed with an SLS AMG and Martin Grady driving an Audi R8 straight down the inside of the SLS and straight down the inside of the Audi R8 as well. And now as we head up towards turn 9, we've got to try and get through here cleanly. I was taking it pretty conservative on this opening lap because I wasn't sure at all how this car was actually going to handle. And obviously, this being just a tuned road car, we're not going to be able to take quite the same lines with as much grip as we can in a race car right around the outside of Inestrosa driving his Porsche. And that's absolutely beautiful coming into the third sector. Gives us some breathing room up towards Salvatore Maraglino, not a Formula 1, goodness me, an FIA Gran Turismo driver. Gran Turismo competitor driving the BMW M3s. He gets a bit of oversteer out of Europe car. We send it down the inside at the chicane rack, and as we get out of there, just gentle on the power. Oh, I tried to take the corner flat as I would in a race car, but it's just not going to work out in this Z8. But we finally get down the main straight using a bit of slipstream of Sugawara straight down the outside of the Porsche 911 GT3, the 996 variant from 2001. And let's see if we can nail this turn 1 braking point. Braking pretty early. I haven't got the carbon ceramic brake set on the car because I had that on the car for the previous video where I was using the Porsche Taycan to do the World Touring Car Championship, the WTC 600. Oh dear, barreling into turn 4 there. Accidentally made some contact with Bayless. Not really what I wanted to do. But as I was saying, yeah, I had the carbon ceramics on the Porsche Taycan in the previous video, and I think the combination of the carbon ceramic brakes plus the sports tyres, they're not quite balanced, so I think I was just sort of locking up the brakes, locking up the front wheels. So I decided to go for the next best option, which is the race brake option, the slotted discs I think I ended up going for, with still the racing brake pads, so not quite the amount of braking capability that I had in the Porsche Taycan, but at least I got some pretty good race brakes on, just shy of the carbon ceramics. And look, I don't think we need them because we're making absolutely quick work of this grid as we're finishing up lap 2. We've caught up to Baptiste Beauvoir, all during a nice little move with Coque Lopez through the third sector at Catalunya. 2 wheels on the grass, we get around the outside of the Mercedes-AMG GT, around the inside of Nicolas Rubelin driving the 1989 M3 Sport Evolution, and that promotes us up into second position. Only one more car to go, another Porsche 911 driven by Adriano Corazza, a Brazilian FIA GTC driver, and he's just braking at turn 3, not really what we want to do. And what that's actually done is scrubbed off too much speed for me, so I don't have quite enough downforce, or quite as much downforce as I had in the previous renditions of turn 3. So I get a couple of kicks of oversteer, I send it in very deep at turn 4, trying to get right around the outside, and we're still not able to get that done as Corazza has a much shorter line. He's on the outside of the track heading into turn 5 now, but he opens up the inside, I send it down the inside, meet that apex, and that's us up into first before we even reach halfway into this race. Oh no, we are halfway, 2.5 laps is half 5, isn't it? So we're definitely halfway into the race, but we're still on lap 3. We've still got 2 laps to go after this one, and we are up into the lead. We're 1.5 seconds up into the lead at this stage, and that was the story to the end of the race. That was it. We set a decent lap on lap 4 of a 159.0 as we finally managed to actually meet all the apexes and begin to get an understanding of how this Z8, this tuned Z8, actually handled around this track. But that was a fairly easy victory, a 12-second margin in the end. So if anything, my car's actually a little bit OP. It just goes to show the AI aren't that great. They're pretty good depending on your skill level, but definitely if you're sort of a little bit higher up in terms of skill. So I normally race in Oceania top split, so I think I probably need a little bit of a car handicap to actually get a decent race. We win the Mercedes-AMG GTS model out of that one, so we've got 2 more to go, 2 more races, the second of which is going to be at Circuit de Saint-Croix, the B variation, or if we're going to be all good and proper, Circuit de Saint-Croix, the B variation. So this little circuit here is a return from GT Sport, of course, and I quite like Saint-Croix. It's a really nice circuit. We get straight around the outside of the Mercedes-AMG C63, quite a little mouthful for that particular car, and then we find ourselves up against this SLR McLaren, an absolutely beautiful example of that car there. I happen to think that's a really neat looking car. It's out of 2009. The styling looked a little bit 90s to me, but there you go. But This is actually not as easy as it looks, this downhill section at least, the fast flowing section, sort of just in the second sector here, and we get a kicker oversteer as we go over the bump out onto the famous St. Croix bridge, and we're in the slipstream of the Porsche 911 GT1. Let's see if we can get this move done at the upcoming turn 7, the sort of sharp off-camber left-hander with a bump halfway through, heading out into the last little complex before the very long flat-out section up towards turn 10 around the outside of that Porsche GT1, and we've got another Porsche in the form of a Carrera GT, which we are going to go straight around the outside at turn 8, and that is that done and dusted. A couple more positions up for grabs down the straight as we unleash the power of this BMW Z8. What is that rear wing, by the way? Isn't that weird? Obviously that's a custom rear wing, but instead of removing the stock rear wing or the factory rear wing, it just puts it on top of the factory rear wing. So you end up with a very strange looking rear wing combination, almost a biplane rear wing, but it just looks very weird. I think perhaps maybe the cars with a very pronounced, let's say, rear wing from the factory, maybe you shouldn't be able to add a custom rear wing on the top, but well, I guess it is what it is. Plenty of downforce on the back of that Porsche earlier, and we were still able to make quick work of it. We got past Mariglino, once again driving the BMW M3. Adriano Corazza down in 8th position this particular time using the 997 911 GT3, so he doesn't prove to be too much of an issue. But we're coming up to a little bit of a gaggle of cars consisting of Baptiste Beauvoir, Patrick Blajan, Sugawara, and I think that's Inestrosa up in 4th. No, it's not. Inestrosa's up in 3rd. I don't know who's ahead of this pack. We get around the outside of the GTR, get past the 2001 911, get past a different 2001 911, and we get past Rubala driving the M3. That's all down the straight, so obviously, yeah, I'm pretty OP in a straight line, so I think I probably could run even less performance points. I think, what was I on, 660? I probably could be running 640 or even 630, and still it would probably give me a decent race. There we go, we finally get up to Inestrosa. I think they're driving a slightly later Porsche 911. Speaking of slightly later, that's when we got onto the brakes, and we ended up going deep into the hairpin, so that's no good. But then through the flowing corners, I have a particularly great advantage over the AI cars. Pretty much any flowing section where you can kind of carry a lot of speed, and whether it's touch and go as to whether you use the brakes, you're going to be significantly faster than an AI as we lose it down the dip, heading towards the final corner.
I switch off everything.
And I am very stupid. Very, very stupid for that one. So we've undone pretty much most of that work that we've done in that entire lap. So we now find ourselves, in terms of progress, a lap down. So we've got to do all this work again. We've got to get past Beauvoir, Rubala, but Rubala's quite easy. I don't think Rubala quite has the straight line speed in that M3, so we don't really have to worry too much about him. But the first main move we have to make is against Beauvoir, straight around the outside at turn 1 in what was honestly a pretty neat and tidy little move, using that curb to our advantage on the entry to widen the corner and manage to find the gap around the outside. Sugawara, once again, we have to get past, and Blajan, we have to get past as well once again. Inestrosa's not quite as far up the road from this pack as he was just earlier, so he can sort of go straight past Blajan, straight immediately into setting up the move to try and get past Inestrosa. As we head down this difficult little section, just try and keep the car nice and stable. It's all downhill, there's bumps, and especially if we're trying to make an overtake, as Inestrosa almost attempts to cut us off there. Another massive kick of oversteer as we're heading through that bump. Just look behind to see if Inestrosa's made any overlap. He had a tiny overlap, but he doesn't have the straight line speed that I have in my Z8. Straight into the slipstream of Grady in the Audi R8, not the Z8 this time, but another 8 car at least. Straight around the outside at turn 7, no worries there. We don't hit the barrier either. So that was actually quite a decent little move, and we find ourselves 5 seconds off Lopez in the lead. And it took us up until the S's of the same lap, actually. We finally caught up to Lopez, so this is what I was talking about before. Any flowing section where you may not need to use the brakes, you're going to be a lot faster than the AI, because I can guarantee you the AI are probably going to end up using the brakes in the flowing sections of the track. He makes up ground under braking, so perhaps better brakes on Lopez's car, but as we exit the final corner, there's really going to be no contest there as we get the power down, and once again, the straight line speed advantage of the Z8 and the fact that I managed to actually get everything together in the final lap meant we actually came across the line to finish first in that one. No further crashes to report of, which is lovely to say the least. That ended up being a 13-second advantage, so imagine if we didn't crash, that probably could have been approaching maybe an 18, 19, 20-second advantage. But for that race, we won the Mercedes-AMG C63S. Once again, quite a mouthful, and that's quite an oversteery machine. Everyone who's done the license test will know exactly the one I'm referring to. But on to the final race of the Schwarzwald League, a Nürburgring Nordschleife, 1 lap here. So it's going to have to be a pretty decent lap to say the least. We've only got one lap to get things done. One tour of Nürburgring, and to spice things up, we actually have a little bit of rain on the radar. As you can see, the windscreen wipers are going, the rain light is on the back, so we are definitely going to need to be extra careful as the track begins to get a little bit wet. Obviously a very narrow, twisty circuit here, and as I've demonstrated, this Z8 is really good down a straight line, but pretty oversteery on the exit of corners. So it's really going to be a very big test as to whether I can actually keep this tuned Z8 under control, because as we go out of the tight, twisty corners on the wet track surface, there's going to be the very, very high risk of oversteer. We get a couple of moves done in that little opening section, a bit of oversteer, heading out onto this back straight, and I get another kick the other way as I go to correct. So that's just a little bit of a reminder that I've got to be extra careful as there's a little bit of moisture on the track. We're still in the bottom third of the moisture meter on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, so we can still sort of treat it or drive much closer to it being a dry surface than a full wet surface, but that track's only going to get wetter as more rain passes over us. We get a couple of moves done down this straight as we head over the crest. We're going to have to be really careful. We're going to try and find the space on the outside of the C63, but we end up on the grass. Do we keep it out of the barrier? We do. We actually managed to rejoin the track pretty good there, just nice and gently back onto the track, but a couple of the AI cars don't quite react to me there and make some contact as I rejoin the track. A drag race straight past the C63, and we're once again looking at Martin Grady, still in the Audi R8. He loves that Audi R8, doesn't he? But around the outside as we head into the foxhole, and then we're going to go up the compression, or down into the compression and back up the hill on the other side, nice and gentle to make sure we don't fly into the barrier on the right, which was a very big issue in Gran Turismo Sport. But I think as we're being particularly careful, we managed to avoid that. We catch up to Bayless driving the cursed Porsche 911 or the Carrera RS. We managed to actually get that move done with very minimal fanfare, nothing too much to worry about, just nice and clean on the exit. The track is beginning to get a little bit wet now, so you have to be more and more careful, and we're going to see on the exit of this corner as we try and get on the power, the car's going to oversteer to the left. We managed to correct it before the car angle became unrecoverable. Straight past Maraglino, driving the 2003 BMW M3, and we once again have another M3 in the form of the first edition M3 that from 1989, Nicholas Rubela, as we're heading down the hill towards the quadruple right-hander. Let's see if we can get this move on the inside here, but Rubela does not really leave that much space. He leaves precisely a car width, which doesn't provide me enough wiggle room to actually try and get some extra speed there. Super late onto the brakes into Versiphon. We've caught up to Beauvoir. We're 15 seconds off the lead, and we're probably about a third of the way through the lap, or maybe 40% through the lap. The rain stopped actually, so the track's going to be drying up now. There's a big patch of rain just out to the west of where we are, but yeah, obviously not falling onto the circuit, so that's no worries there. We get past Beauvoir and we immediately catch up to Innestrosa, coming out onto one of the little straights at the Nordschleife, but the straight line prowess of the Z8 is just no match for all these cars with the slower straight line speed, so we managed to get past them pretty quickly. Sugawara now driving the other 2001 911, and just gently on the power through here. Can be really easy to spin out as there's a bump on the apex and it's pretty tight. I would say the exit of that hairpin just before is probably one of the tightest spots on the circuit, one of the narrowest parts, I guess. We're going to fast forward up through here, and that's where we finally catch up to Koke Lopez for the podium now. So we're coming into the twistiest section of the Nordschleife. That's marked by the entrance, or the start of which is marked by the carousel, because we're now entering a pretty narrow part of the circuit. There's a lot of corners, a lot of flowing sections, a really narrow part of the track, so it's going to be quite difficult to get the overtakes done. So we're going to have to try and get creative. We're going to try and pry open the gap on the outside here, which will translate to the inside for this corner, side by side on the exit, so we have to give that car space, but they back out. But it gives us the inside again for the next corner, and that just completes the move for us. You can see what I was going for. So we've got a little bit of time now until we catch up to Karatza, who's found himself back into a podium baying position. Compared to the previous race, he was down in 8th, but now he's back up in 2nd. He was the car running in the lead in the first race before it overtook him. But we're just going to try and get on the power. The track's going to dry out now, so as we go on further and further, we can get some more confidence with the throttle. But let's see if we can get down the inside. No, he doesn't. He closes that gap, and we're not able to get anything. He just parks it on the apex. Let's have a look again. We're later on the brakes, but he comes in for the apex before we can get our car up the inside. We get a pretty poor exit there as we were stuck on his back bumper. Got to look around the outside now of Ice Curve, and I'm still not able to get that done. So you can it really goes to show just how difficult it can be to overtake through this section. Even though I'm significantly faster than this AI car, I still could not get past for a good few corners, and I ended up losing quite a lot of time. But I managed to drag race past him as the track is just beginning to open up as we head into this roller coaster section now. We're going to go down the dip of death that claimed us, and we managed to get through there okay on that occasion. And we're still on the back of Blajan as to have a little safety tap of the brakes before sending it wide. Another tap of the brakes there. We're just able to keep about 50% throttle, and that manages to get us past him, and we are into the lead with a couple of corners to go up into Style Strek. I think this is Style Strek. I don't think this is actually Style Strek. Let me look on my notes. I don't think it was Style Strek. It's Schwalbenschwanz. I was close. I wasn't really. But as we enter down onto the back straight, the Dottinger Hawa, as we reach 290 kilometers an hour coming into the Tiergarten section. Still a little bit of moisture on the circuit, so we can't quite be as aggressive as we would ordinarily be in completely dry conditions. But the track is pretty much almost dried up as we finally finish and go through the last corner, and that is going to be the end of the race. We managed to actually win that one with only a 5-second margin until second spot. So not quite as massive of a gap as the previous races. So Nürburgring, a little bit of a more difficult race, but that is going to complete the menu book. Let's see what car we won on that occasion. So that gap at the end was officially 6.4 seconds. So this is going to be the last car in the menu book as well, so we're going to get all the rewards for finishing that race, and the car that we are going to win is a Mercedes-AMG SLS, or SLS-AMG, and that completes menu book 34. Absolutely beautiful. So we're going to head back to the cafe and find ourselves a beautiful, picturesque photo of the AMG package. But that's going to finish up this video today, so do hit the like button if you enjoyed, and do subscribe if you'd like to see more videos and streams from me. Do leave a comment as well. Questions, comments, and constructive criticism, as always, very much appreciated. But that's going to be the end of this one today, and that means that is it from me. So once again, I do thank you very much for watching. See you later.